So Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, is on, and we talk about this study that had come out. One of the parts of the study they found was that you were very likely to, at least half anyway. They say, like this says, fully half say they have friends or relatives who have changed because of the media they consume, and that the media plays a huge role in the way you see the state of the United States of America. Just so everybody is aware, again, Bill and I do this on ROKFIN, Locals, and Patreon for supporters only, this whole show called Tittle Tattle. Like I said, if you're seeing this on YouTube, you just got a little clip of it. So consider become a supporter, especially AlisonMar.locals.com. You'll get a lot of extra exclusive content. You get to pose questions ahead of time for interviews, and we have editorial board meetings every Saturday morning. So you can give me feedback from the week before, pitch story ideas for the week ahead, talk about whatever you want. You'll get exclusive live streams there. So definitely go to AlisonMar.locals.com. So this is what Rich had to say. I just wanted to play a quick soundbite because he was pretty dire about the corporate news, and I just wanted to hear what you think about it.
Sometimes does.
This half of Americans say they have friends or relatives who have changed because of the media they consume. That was kind of what you were bringing up, that the influence of the media.
Yeah. The media is the most destructive force in the country. And again, we did some work for jury selection in some high profile cases. And the country always latches on. You have somebody who's pro-Depp, right? Somebody who's pro-Amber Heard, or in the case of Rittenhouse, you're pro-guilty, you're pro-innocent, and on and on. And we've worked on a lot of these national cases. And it really does matter which news outlets you consume or how you get your information. Really does matter and where you stand on these issues, but also how accurately you can identify facts in these different events and cases. And I'm coming to the conclusion that they do this on purpose. They sow this, these demonstrably false ideas or claims, and that things that never happened or things that don't exist. I'm starting to believe they do it on purpose, and not even starting. I do believe they do it on purpose just to gin people up and anger them, which is a shame, because then you have, like something like illusory truth effect. Once you get them to believe the lie or the conspiracy, whatever it is, they will never, or not always, but it's difficult to break someone's belief in something, even when it's not true, and they're presented with evidence of it not being true. It's called illusory truth effect. Other people that are educated, otherwise smart, it doesn't matter whether you're ignorant, or whether you're somebody who's smart. It happens to everybody. So the danger in them doing this is very real, because especially when we're in a hyper-partisan environment, it's already difficult enough to get the human brain to admit to itself that it's been lied to, and that that lie. And when you add all of this to it, it's like it's a powder keg. It's a powder keg. It's so irresponsible and narrow, or short-sighted, not even narrow-minded, short-sighted of them to do, because it gives them a short-term benefit, but they're not really putting a lot of thought into what can happen down the road when they eventually push this a little too far, which I think they could do.
And what do you think, Bill?
I agree with everything he said, with the exception of the media is the most destructive force in America right now. I would listen to an argument for top three, but I don't think it's the most destructive force in America right now. But everything else, he's right. The media's been doing this for decades, okay? Pitting false information. They pit stories against each other in the context of competition. I'll real quickly, a big example of this is back in the 80s, the Dallas Times-Herald and the Dallas Morning News, the two big newspapers in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. They had battles upon battles for news and sports, and pushing narratives that they thought their viewers wanted to see or read more about. Some of them a little more liberal, some of them a little bit more conservative. The football scandal at Southern Methodist University, that is a big one that comes into mind when they were battling there. And that also involved a lot of the television news media there as well. But going as far back as, the 80s when those two Dallas newspapers were doing it. Yeah, he's 100% right. They've been doing it a lot longer than people realize. But at the same time, I don't think that's the biggest threat to America right now. I would definitely listen to a top three argument, but everything else I agree with. I'm on board with everything he said.
Okay, and specific to what he said about, I believe they're doing it on purpose.
Yeah,
I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
yeah, that's what I was saying. With those two newspapers back in the 80s, they were doing that on purpose. Okay, giving two different ways of looking at it so they could compete and they could drive viewership and, buy our newspaper because, the media companies have been doing this forever. It's the only reason Fox News has stayed in business as long because it was the first one to have a conservative, right-leaning point of view, and they pit these stories against each other. And they've been doing it forever.
So, and maybe network is different than local, but I think one of the biggest questions I have about from whence we came in corporate news is the level of knowledge that the average stormtrooper in a newsroom has of that sort of agenda, I guess, because I don't think I know anybody personally who would say, "Oh yeah, I mean, I don't care what's true. I just go on TV for ratings and I want to pit arguments that are shallow and missing facts against each other just to mislead America and start an insurrection." Like they would never say that. They all are, for the most part, true believers in what they're doing. They have been somehow convinced that they're doing God's work in a public service. I used to believe that stuff. I'm not even sure. I know I was putting out press releases, just quoting press releases. I could name specific times and have found out later, wait a second, that was basically propaganda. And I just, I just was not trained to be aware of that, and so I don't know, like, where does the buck stop? Like, is it the ownership? Is it the management? And because I think people have this idea, like Rich, that everybody's in on it. But actually, I don't think most people are in on it. I think they're kind of useful idiots. Like, I think I was a useful idiot for a long time, and I thought I was doing a good job. And so, like, when I think about how you could ever change anything, which really isn't up to us anymore, we're kind of on the outside now. but if you were going to try to give the opportunity for there to be some kind of reformation within newsrooms, within corporate newsrooms, a lot of them are not going to respond to an argument of like, you guys are just propagandists who are trying to do this on purpose because you just hate people, you hate rural America, or you hate cities, or you hate whatever, and you just whatever. That'll to them will sound nuts. Like, even when Trump would say fake news, they thought that was nuts because they're like, well, that's just your problem. If you can't see what we're doing here, that's your problem. So I don't know about that. I don't know who's really in on it in the way Rich is talking about versus who's just taking the marching orders and doing it because they have this ego problem, where they're thinking they're in the service of some higher good.
Right. Okay. Oh, I see that.
So what do you think? Do you agree with that? Or do you think, like he's saying, on the intentionality, that most people do understand that?
I think the average person, the average cameraman working at a TV station in Lima, Ohio, as his first job, making $18,000 a year, he's not in on it. Okay. Now, the people, I mean, the ones who are higher up, like, you and I, we did the clip of that news director in Iowa who said, yeah, we are basically going to give you news that favors the liberal side of things. Okay. Probably in on it. Okay. I got to tell you, maybe at the executive levels, like, and I'm trying to wrap it up as quickly as I can. I would think that maybe some executives are in on it, maybe some not. But I got to tell you, the big people who own Sinclair Broadcasting and own Nexstar and stuff like that, they don't care. They're not worried about it. All they want to see is those monthly checks come in. They just want to see those statements, and they want to see how they're replenishing their bank account so they can upgrade their Gulfstream 4 jet to the Gulfstream 5 jet. Okay. That's all it really matters to them. But there is, Probably in the executive levels, people who are in on the scam. So that I see where he's coming from, but you're right. I would think the average reporter in Timbuktu, Minnesota, who's on her first job out of college, making 20,000 a year and living off ramen, she's probably not in on it.
Okay, well, you have the chance to get in on something and be really intentional about it, and that is AllisonWinePromo.com. Get 50% off my favorite wines and 50% off shipping. And don't forget also, you can go to twinenginecoffee.com/Allison and get some high altitude Nicaraguan roast. There's a light roast and dark roast. If you get a dosed, let me know. Maybe I don't know what that is, but I'm going to trademark it here. There's also Katura tea, which is tea made from the coffee fruit. Okay, this is another episode of Tittle Tattle in the bag. Bill Doris, any final thoughts, or shall we go?
Thank you for supporting us, everybody. We do appreciate it.